Hello everyone and welcome to sunny Bournemouth, or Boscombe to be precise. There's another shop that's empty. Yes, the image you saw right at the beginning was the famous police box that is on a show here in the UK. It's been running for about a gazillion years called Doctor Who, and it's famous because it's called the Tardis, which the main feature of it being that it's small on the outside, but when you go in it's full of surprises and much bigger and not what you would expect. And I think that's quite poignant when we talk about the situation as it's unfolding right now, particularly here in the UK. But before we go into that in much more depth, we're going to take a little walk down this road here because I'm meeting a friend in a place called Reef, which is a cafe, and I'm not too sure if we're allowed to sit inside, but we'll certainly, worst case scenario, grab a coffee to go and have a little walk around the beach area because I think it's a beautiful day for it. The sun is shining, and it's a very nice part of the world to live on days like these. Yes, I think I've already mentioned this is called Sea Road. I hope the camera isn't blinded by the light too much. If it is, then apologies. But anyway, yeah, so it's been an interesting few days since the last time I did a video, which was on lockdown I should say, day one, a few days ago, where, just to recap, at the beginning of the video I had a little bit of a conversation, let's call it that, with one of the members of security, suggesting that I wasn't allowed to film in there inside the indoor shopping centre that was pretty much empty and most shops in there were boarded up. I don't know what her issue was. And then, of course, later on in the video, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Tanya, who I'm actually meeting in a minute, who was diagnosed with COVID-19 just a couple of weeks ago, and was told to go into isolation for 10 days, which she did. And she was, amongst other things, talking about how the battle with the mental impact of isolating or self-isolating most certainly rivaled the actual symptoms of the illness itself, which I found quite interesting because that falls in line with the feedback we're getting from lots and lots of NHS workers who, amongst other things, have resigned their jobs because they feel helpless in their capacity to be able to provide the help that's needed for people, for example, living in care homes, nursing homes and that sort of stuff, because they're being told to isolate when there's no need to, and also being refused visits and all that sort of stuff. There are lots of videos around, the famous one being, of course, the lady who tried to get her mother out of the care home, a 97-year-old mother, and she was promptly put in the back of a police car, handcuffed, and her daughter was filming the whole event. That sort of thing has been going on here now for a little while. Yes, so, and of course, since lockdown 1, it's been relatively peaceful. It's been pretty much business as usual, apart from, of course, unfortunately, those who have lost their jobs, of which there are many. I, for one, won't be working at the football club anytime soon because there's simply no work. I mean, there are football matches still going on, ironically enough, and you know, money is still changing hands in terms of the players are still earning their nice wages, and you know, people are still watching sport on their televisions, pay as you go and all that sort of stuff seems to be thriving at the moment because the stadia are empty. And so because of the stadia being empty, there's no demand for work. And of course I work in the hospitality department, and that's pretty much a no-show at the moment because there's there's no reason to be hospitable, as it were. But that's not a big issue for me, because that's more of a sideline, that job, really. It's not a main job that I do. But, you know, I was doing things like helping out in a charity shop, and they're now closed down. And as you saw before, right at the beginning of this video, the British Heart Foundation shop, that's closed down now. I put a little thing on my story on Facebook yesterday of a large bank that's closed its shop now as well, here where I live. So I think that's bank number 4 or 5 of about 8 that have shut up shop for good. The bank still exists, but the walk-in service is no more. So of course you're forcing people, which, to be fair, we're making it easy for them to go online and do online banking and that sort of stuff. So that's the funny thing about all of this, you know, although I'm complaining a little bit about how everything's going online, but then again, we're sort of making it easy for them to push that agenda through, which leads on to other topics like cashless society and all that sort of stuff, which we can get into at a later date. Anyway, so this road here normally reveals a lovely view at the end of it, because I'm walking down towards the beach area and towards a pier called Bournemouth Pier. We have 2 piers. I think they're about 1.5 miles apart from each other. There's Bournemouth Pier, which will be over to the right in a minute when I get down to the bottom of this hill, and there's Bournemouth Pier right here in a minute. The sea looks quite calm today, which is nice. And I should do this more often, really. I don't come down here half as much as I should do, really. It's right on my doorstep. But it's like anything, isn't it? Until it goes missing in your life, you kind of don't know what you've missed. Anyway. So I think the place that we're meeting up is along here somewhere. I'm just showing you a little bit of a panoramic, I even was going to say then, view. I don't know if you can see that in the distance, but there's one of the cruise liners that is parked up. We've had this for a number of months now, that big cruise liners have just anchored off the coast, basically, and are doing nothing. Yes, and for those of us, of course, that know, you shouldn't see that reflection of the sun if we were living on a ball. Anyway, I shall cross the road in a moment. Oh, look at that view there. Isn't that beautiful? I hope you can see it as well as I can. Look at that, is stunning. I shall walk down here. Yeah, it's almost a shame to have to talk about a bit of doom and gloom and the sinister nature of what's being rolled out at the moment when we have surroundings like this. You know, people could pay good money to come down this part of the world. Well, there we go. There's Bournemouth Pier anyway. And the ships in the horizon there, the cruise liners. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 there. One in the glare of the sun there that you can't see. So if you took a right around that corner there, that takes you to Bournemouth Pier. Get a better view of it in a minute. When I get in the shade, you'll probably be able to see it better. And I'll be peeling off to the left in a minute, because Reef is towards a town called Southbourne, which is halfway between where I live and another town called Christchurch. Anyway, so there we have the main part of Bournemouth in the background there, and then in the distance you'd have a place called Sandbanks, and beyond that, a town called Poole. That's looking out towards the west. So theoretically, if you carried on there forever and ever and ever, you'd end up banging into the Statue of Liberty. Anyway, right, so here's the pier I told you about here. No doubt we'll go for a walk on there later on, once we've grabbed a coffee. Very therapeutic indeed. There we go. But it is open, people are walking around. I don't see many people wearing face masks, I have to say, which is nice. Why would you? Anyway, and now we'll walk along the seafront here and go to Urban Reef, which is where those yellow parasols are in the background. But before I do, I'll just park myself here, spark a cigarette and just talk for a couple of minutes. So yeah, so the situation at the moment is as follows, that the vaccination is absolutely on the horizon, and there are some sinister tones coming out now, things that we know about anyway, about what is actually in there, you know, and the RNA nature of it all, and the nanoparticles, and how that all links in with AI and 5G and etc, etc, etc. It's something that many of us have been looking at and researching, some more deeply than others, for a while now. And it's still a topic that if you approach, let's say, your average sort of mainstream thinker, as I used to be a few years ago, they kind of look at you in bemusement and astounded that how could we possibly think that anybody would be capable of agendarizing, if that's even a word, such an awful dystopian notion. But that is where we're at a crossroads, quite literally, because people have got a decision to make very, very soon, and it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's a decision that will have to be made, because either we go along with this or there is no turning back. It's that simple. They are the choices we have. And when I say no turning back, I mean no turning back. You know, you're not going to undo a cashless society. You're not going to undo a vaccination that's in full flow. Once that's in, that's in. Done and dusted. I mean, nothing's been done about the smart systems that have been rolled out, for example. I've said this many, many months ago. You know, if you go down the road where I live, to the dual carriageway, the local highway, or whatever, there are big signs on the sides of the road saying digital motorways that open in 2023. You know, so it's right there for everybody to see. But people look at that, digital motorways, and think nothing of it. You know, they look at it from a convenience factor angle. You know, they don't look at it from the angle that it should be looked at, which is a critical angle. You know, and it's a discussion that's endless, isn't it? Really, we've been talking about it for a long, long time. But yeah, right in the distance there, by the way, is the Isle of Wight, which is many, many miles away. I shouldn't be able to see that from here. I'm not going to zoom in, because I'll probably mess the footage up. I'm not exactly Steven Spielberg, and this is only a phone. But anyway, I'll just pan around a little bit quickly. That's where I just came from. Up there, Sea Road. And then we have the cliffs, as it were, to the left that lead round to Bournemouth. I think there's about 7 miles of sandy beaches right here where I am, which is quite nice. If you're into sandy beaches, of course. Yeah. Interesting times ahead, no doubt about that. I'm trying to get hold of my daughter at the moment, not that that is or should be a feature of this conversation that I'm having right now, because I'd be interested to see what's exactly going on in Germany where she lives. You know, I understand from a friend who lives in France, for example, that mandatory vaccinations are already either have been or are in the process of being introduced in schools. which for me is a horrendous thought. So that's something I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on, because if they're doing it in one country, they'll do it with all the others as well. Obviously, it doesn't really matter which country gets it first, because like I've said as well, you know, when you go up the higher echelons of the establishment and the agenda, well, the pyramid, let's say, the hierarchy in general, then they don't see this as countries and nations, and borders mean nothing to them, peoples mean nothing to them. There's no affiliation to nationalities or anything like that. That's only on ground level where we live. You know, at the end of the day, it's one big chessboard, and pieces are being shifted around at will. And we're the ones on the ground level that suffer those consequences by going along with it. I have to keep adding, by going along with it, and that's my biggest gripe at the moment. You know. Anyway, let's take a walk down here. Could walk on there later on the sand. That'd be nice, but we'll do it. Walk down here first. There we have it. Lovely, lovely day here in Bournemouth. They're not meteorites, by the way. Yes, and recently I've got to say I've connected up or hooked up with a lot of really, really good people. At the moment online, but some of them I have actually met at the rally that we've been having in Bournemouth every Saturday. We had a kind of rally this Saturday just gone, but it was more of a meet-up than a rally because we weren't too sure with the nature of the lockdown that had just preceded it by a few days, you know, whether the police are going to get all funny about it. But they weren't, so we're going to continue that every Saturday. That's going to be pretty cool. Hello Tanya, how you doing? All right? You right?
We couldn't be good on a day like today.
Nice to see you.
Oh, you too.
Lovely queue outside Urban Reef. What they're waiting for? They're free money.
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not allowed in there, are we, to sit down? It's
No.
just takeaway, is it?
Just takeaway, but it's still so beautiful. That's my little hotspot. I always sit up there against that window.
Okay.
And the sun just pours in. Oh.
Yeah, it's lovely. I just filmed myself walking. Didn't film myself. I was filming the walk down Sea Road, and
Yes.
and it's an amazing view on a day like this, isn't it?
And people are out and about.
Makes you wonder what all the fuss is about when you see this, doesn't it? It's sort
I
of.
think that little one's open.
Should we have a look up there?
Yes.
Because I don't want to sort of queue up for too long. It's like
Exactly.
it's like standing outside a Russian butcher, isn't it? 100 people waiting
Or like
for a lamb of leg.
when you